Awesome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bank to the Future Live, episode 98. We're doing a countdown to 100 episodes. And today we're going to be discussing my 7 investing principles when investing in the age of Bitcoin. These are actually principles that I get from the traditional markets, but I've integrated into Bitcoin. So let's just check everything is working right now. If you are on the YouTube channel, can you give us a quick hello and where you're tuning in from on the live chat? We've got Brandon here. We've got Azad here. Azad's got the Slido board where you can ask your questions. The live chat is where you can interact and let us know anything there. But we're also going to be taking questions on the Slido board because we've got a bit of a democracy going on here where you can get your question and people can upvote other people's questions. So just to do the housekeeping, we're going to be discussing the 7 investing principles. And in the second half, we're going to take as many questions as we can. So Azad, do you want to just share the Slido board quickly? There you go. So if you scan that QR code, then that will take you over to the Slido board. This is where I'm going to answer your question. We're focusing on investing right now. If it gets a bit too political, that's for the Simon Dixon YouTube channel. This is really for investors that are serious about building and protecting their wealth in the age of Bitcoin. What's the other ways, Azad, that they can get over here if they don't scan that QR code?
Yep, well, head over to Slido.com and enter the code BF98.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So I'm going to jump in right away with the content. If we're all live where we should be, I'm going to do a screen share on my side where we're going to jump into the 7 investing principles. A few announcements, a few updates. Get your accounts ready. We've been taking a bit of a break from pitches while everybody gets a chance to verify and certify their accounts on BnkToTheFuture.com. We had a couple of updates. The first update is that we are now, you're able to very easily and very simply in the fund section of your account, buy some Bitcoin, get your deposit funds, get it converted into a stable coin, convert it over to Ether, and get started. So if you are new to the crypto space or you're looking just for an easy, simple way, we have a partnership with Binance, but you can have it all integrated into your portfolio so you can buy and sell Bitcoin through our new company in the group, BF Virtual Assets. We've been applying for licenses like crazy. We've got 3 pending applications so that we can bring as many of these tools that we're discussing. So even if you see some tools that may not be available to you right now, our goal is to make it as accessible and available to as many people as possible as we apply for additional licenses to make those tools available. So you can buy those virtual assets, get your account ready. You just need to verify it. Whether you're high net worth or not, you can use that service. If you're high net worth, and our regulator define high net worth as having a net worth of $1 million or more, then you can buy and sell shares in the biggest companies in Bitcoin and crypto at BnkToTheFuture.com. So we'll go through some of those, but we're going to jump straight into that. And we got our next 2 pitches going live. So if you want to be a shareholder in Celsius and you qualify as a certified investor on BnkToTheFuture.com, next week we aim to go live with that, and we'll be notifying our priority access investors first. And we're also shortly after, give that a few weeks, that will be our first pitch live since we had to rebuild our onboarding process. So if you are a regular investor on Bank to the Future, make sure you log in, make sure you verify your account, make sure you certify your account so that you don't miss any of those new securities offerings we've got going. We've also got the secondary market, which is live. If you miss deals, other investors looking to sell their shares, you can purchase from them on our secondary market. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now and we're going to go over. Hopefully you can see that. Let's put that full screen. Okay, so this is BF Live episode 98, 4th of May 2022. Hopefully the questions are coming in the live chat. The guys will share the Slido link if you want to easily ask these questions, or you can upvote other people's questions. So let's jump straight in with the 7 investing principles. Now, These come from working with at Bank to the Future. We have over 150,000 investors that have invested in the future of finance, bought shares in companies. We're the world's largest online investment platform for investing in financial technology companies. And we've been, we're the longest standing company in Bitcoin and the world's first crypto securities business. We have seen it all. I spoke at the very first Bitcoin conference in Prague in 2011, and shortly after, we made some of our first investments and have literally, through Bank to the Future, paid out thousands of Bitcoin from people that invested in some of our early funds, as well as all the different companies. We did, investments into Ethereum when it was under $1 through a mining security. We have Bitcoin Capital that ended up investing in many of the largest companies in crypto. And we put deals together regularly. We have seen over the last decade that there are people that have built, literally become billionaires, some become millionaires, and there are some that are in the same financial position. So these 7 investing principles are from my last 2 decades of being involved before Bitcoin in traditional investing, and today being involved in the age of Bitcoin. Now, if you didn't catch it last week, if you enjoy this content today, make sure you go back to last week's video where I covered the 7 investing maxims. So then you can understand how to think about an allocation into the Bitcoin and crypto space depending on your situation. I can't give financial advice. I can't give individual advice like that. Can't give tax advice or legal advice. All I can do is share some of our experiences so you can think how it relates to you as well. So let's jump in with the first 7 investing principles. The first is what I call asset allocation. Now, this is a big one. I try to give little sound bites of content every now and then on my YouTube channel. But asset allocation really is the difference between paying a professional fund manager versus the amateur investor. Asset allocation means that you don't sit there each time that you go to make an investment and think about how much you should be investing. You have complete separate allocations for different use cases. So when you think about money, you have your money for your security to meet your everyday expenses. You have your money for your investing. You have your money for your saving. And you have to separate these and really spend some time. So when we work with our retirement plan B clients, we spend a lot of time getting the asset allocations that are right, based upon the goals that one has set for themselves, their income, whether they've got assets, whether they don't have assets, how small they're starting, how large they may be starting. But asset allocation is really preventing you from sitting at an investment opportunity and saying, how much should I be investing? What should I be investing in? How much should I be allocating to this particular risk profile? So asset allocation is really the first fundamental principle. And if you speak to the greatest investors in the world, they've got their asset allocations sewn up. They know what they're doing, and they don't leave anything to the whims and chances. They know how much they may be allocating to Bitcoin, how much they may be investing into Bitcoin and crypto equity, how much they may be investing for alternative investments, how much for traditional, how much for whatever the different asset allocations. So that's the first principle to get right, is asset allocations. And that is really the difference between those that ending up with no Bitcoin because they combined it with their spending money, and then they were at the whims of short-term trends. They couldn't ever become what I call a Bitcoin thinker, which is where you get excited about Bitcoin crashing because it allows you to buy more Bitcoin for your fiat, rather than a fiat thinker, which is where you get very scared about the price because you're worried about where you're going to be able to sell your Bitcoin and earn more fiat. Asset allocation, without a doubt, one of the most important principles to get right. So what's principle number 2? Principle number 2 is diversification. So when I'm talking about, and for those of you that have watched, the free video series is still available, by the way. If you've watched the free video series, retirement, that you can get on retirementplanb.com, I went through the diversification strategies. Now, this is where it gets a bit controversial in the Bitcoin world, because the pure Bitcoin maximalist does not believe in diversification. The pure Bitcoin hater probably doesn't believe in diversifying in this sector. It's a huge mistake both ways. So even if you're a Bitcoin maximalist, diversifying the types of things. So many people talk about things like not your keys, not your coins. So therefore, they put all of their Bitcoin wealth into a private wallet and dig it away in some hole and put together a very complex model for storing it. That's totally the right thing to do, but it doesn't mean that it's what you do with all of it. I allocate some of it towards understanding how much exposure I want for different scenarios. When I talk about being prepared for inflation, deflation, economic growth, economic decline, financial crisis, seizure, bank failure, losing your private key, diversification is taking the different types of risks and making sure that your financial position and your wealth does not change if one of those things blows up. So if you lost your private key to one of your wallets, would you be back to square one and would you fall down the financial and wealth ladder? That means you're overexposed to one thing. And when we work with people in the Retirement Plan B online wealth management program, we make sure that they understand the different types of things to diversify, and they base it upon their financial position, their income statements, their balance sheets, and the work that they do with themselves so that they can be independent of different types of advisors telling you what to diversify into. I want to make you independent from watching YouTube channels and looking for gurus and all that type of stuff that leads you going down the wrong path. Fear of missing out and fear, uncertainty, and doubt selling, and all the things that people have done that has led to them losing their Bitcoin wealth that we've seen over the years. Diversification is the second principle. You don't want to fall down the wealth ladder. No matter what happens, you need to be prepared for all outcomes, and that's the second principle. What's the third principle? The third principle is strategy mixing. And so while I think about Bitcoin investing as one strategy, I also look to diversify that with different types of strategies, not just different outcomes. So I want to have compounded interest. I want to receive income with some of my Bitcoin. It doesn't mean I put all of it into, for example, the company that's going live on Bank to the Future in the next week or two, Celsius, because that would be overexposing to one strategy. Bitcoin lending is a strategy. Bitcoin holding in a private key is a strategy. Investing in the Bitcoin exchanges and crypto exchanges so that you don't have to buy and sell all these cryptos and stay up to date with ICOs, NFTs, metaverses, coins, gaming, all the different things that come along. The exchanges can stay up to date to that. And by owning equity in many of the crypto exchanges, you just long-term benefit from all the value, which have been some of the highest performing investments on Bank to the Future, because their job is to stay up to date with all those trends. Now, if you want to be involved in that and you want to be a full-time investor and you want to go into trading in and out, then see trading as a strategy, but that doesn't mean that you don't have a hands-off investment approach long-term, which is the key to building wealth. We have seen the biggest thing that we've seen that is the wealth destroyer is short-term thinking. Where does short-term thinking come from? Not having a plan, not implementing some of these principles. So strategy mixing is the third principle, the difference between those that have made a lot of wealth and those that didn't. And the right time to start is where you are right now, really. Even if we talked about in Retirement Plan B, when we did the free video series, we said, I shared how to do it with no savings and a regular income, as well as if you already have savings and how to think about these different principles in your investing. So what's the fourth principle? The fourth principle is about compounding your growth. What I see people doing is they jump in and out, they try and trade, they create taxable events for themselves, they look for the next big shiny object. But the wealth that we've seen made in this industry is, if you look at the most successful venture capitalists in this industry, and most of the investments of Bank to the Future has outperformed venture capital across the entire history of our company. But they regularly contribute to their winners, and they compound their growth by regularly knowing how much they're allocating, where they're diversifying, what their strategy mix is, and then compounding. If you're not familiar with compounding growth is that when you slowly contribute, it reaches a critical mass where the funds start coming in, you start reinvesting those funds, and you compound your growth with that. So principle 4 is regularly contributing and regularly compounding to that growth. And what I've sought to do when I built out my retirement plan centered around Bitcoin was to integrate these different principles into that to prevent people and prevent myself from making many of these mistakes, and just really automating the principles into their Bitcoin investing approach. The 5th thing is dollar cost averaging, DCA. So dollar cost averaging is the process of not worrying when to buy, not worrying when to sell, just simply adding to your position, your asset allocation, your diversification, your strategy mix, your compounded growth, and then just contributing to it each and every month. So then when the price goes down and the price crashes, you're not worried about the price going down because you're a Bitcoin thinker. It allows you to take more of your fiat and buy more into the approach and the investment approach from that. And so dollar cost averaging, if the price goes up, you're happy because you've made previous investments, and it just really prevents that whole thing of trying to call the market. I really don't care about what the price is. In fact, I do like it when it's crashing more, because the lower the price goes, the more I get to dollar cost average in. When the price is going up, dollar cost averaging doesn't work as well, but it doesn't mean I try and time the market, because here's the reality. I've worked 2 decades in financial markets, whether it be investment banking, stockbroking, trading. I've been paid by investment banks to go and meet the top fund managers that are managing trillions around the world. And they still can't get the timing of the market right. If you think you can get the timing of the market right, and you find yourself, listening to technical analysis and, trying to follow all these different things, dollar cost averaging is the approach, and it's a fundamental principle once you've got the other principles right. So let's move on to the 6th principle before we start taking questions. Just before we do that, let's take a quick break. Azad, shall we show people that have joined right now where they can go on the Slido board? And so let's just check in and make sure that you know where to ask your questions, because we're going to be moving over in the next few principles over to asking some of those questions. So Slido is the technology, the tools that we use. Great. Some of the questions are coming in. That's great. And this is where you can get your questions. Head over here, scan that QR code, head over to slido.com, and you can put in that code, and it will allow you to go over to this board. You can upvote other people's questions. Also, just before we go through the next 2 principles, some of the links that we got there. Azad, should we just go through some of those links? I just want to share some things with you, some of the tools that we got. So what's the first one? If you don't have an account on BnkToTheFuture.com, this is where I implement these strategies. This is where I buy my Bitcoin. I'm the CEO and co-founder. If you're new to this channel, new to this video, and this is where on the secondary markets, you can buy shares in companies in the Bitcoin and crypto space from other investors, and new deals going live next week or the week after. Hopefully we should be going live with Celsius, who's one of the largest crypto lending platforms and one of the fastest growing deals on Bank to the Future as well. There's the previous round, and they're doing, we're putting an allocation of the $750 million round that they're closing. What we do at Bank to the Future is we have connections to all the top venture capitalists in the industry. They invest in the companies, they set the valuation, we get our allocation, and then we allow people to benefit from that as well. This page really needs updating, Azad, because it hasn't got the team. We've literally doubled the size of the team, and we need to update that as well. So thank you for sharing that. What's the next link we got on the next tab before we go through the rest of the principles? Head over here at retirementplanb.com. This is where you can get the masterclass that we do once a year, completely free. And you register here and you can see last year's masterclass. I think we did it in November, December last year. And you can also get access to free books, free resources, the 4-part video series where I shared live. I invested $1 million of my personal savings, shared how I'm doing that, and some of the different people and results you can get there. That's that link. We'll try and make sure these are all in the description and in the live chat as well if you're watching live right now. What's the next link we got for you? This is our portfolio builder retirement plan. So this is currently in a closed beta. If you want to implement these 7 investing principles, then what we did is I took the exact same structure that I use to build and protect my wealth, and made it available to our Bank to the Future investors that regularly want to dollar cost average, diversify, do asset allocation, compound their growth, and some of the other investing principles. At the moment, you would need to pre-register. So it's retirementplanb.com/portfolio. We've taken on our first 30 retirement plans from those that completed our online wealth management program, and you can pre-register there. A few more shields and a few more links, then we'll cover the principles and get into your questions. That's where you can pre-register. What other links have we got there, Azad? This is the Retirement Plan B online wealth management program that we did last year. You can actually register there and complete the program and wait for us to do the live sessions. We haven't announced the dates yet when we do the live sessions, but if you want to online program, this is where you can sign up and register for that. The dates are outdated. We'll make sure the team update those for us next week, because we'll start to plan when we're going to be doing the next wealth management program. We get that question, but if you want to complete the online program, you can do that on your own, and then we'll email you over when we're actually doing the live part of it as well. And then finally, what's the final link we got there, Azad? We've done that one. Okay, and yeah, this is the final one. This is where you can get everything for free in a very easy membership site. In this membership site, you just register. It gives you a free PDF copy of my second book that I wrote, which was the first published book in the world to include Bitcoin in 2011. You can get that, a downloadable copy. You get that free part video series, and you can also get the masterclass as well. Every time I do my emergency broadcast, when we have big changes in the financial system, we make sure we upload them there so you can get them in one simple, easy place. We got so much we want to offer you. I know it's a bit confusing probably, but those are the different tools. So Azad, I'm going to take the screen share now, and I'm going to cover those final 2 principles before we jump into the AMA. How am I doing for time? Exactly the halfway mark. Let me get the next 2 principles out, and then we can maximize the amount of time we have for questions. Okay, so let's do a quick recap. If you're joining me now on the live chat, we've been going through the 7 investing principles. The first one is the concept of asset allocation and defining exactly how you allocate your investment approach. The second principle is diversification, so preparing for the different outcomes and understanding what asset class in your asset allocation fulfills that diversification need. The third strategy is strategy mixing, so having a different strategy that fulfills a different goal for each of your diversifications. The fourth principle is compounding growth, so making sure you're continually contributing each time so that you build and compound that growth. The fifth principle is dollar cost averaging, which means that you don't need to worry about when to buy, when to sell. You just continually grow. In 2011, I set myself a goal, and that was after speaking at the first Bitcoin conference, was to ensure that each month I had more Bitcoin than I had the previous month. And that principle has served me incredibly well. And many of our investors at Bank to the Future that receive thousands of Bitcoin through investments and all sorts of stuff throughout our platform over the years. And dollar cost averaging is without a doubt the key to being able to do that. You don't need to time the market, completely unnecessary, and most people get it wrong, including the professionals. So what's the principle number 6? And that is the concept of compounded interest. This is investing 101. If you go back to the classic books like A Random Walk Down Wall Street, the Richest Man in Babylon, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. I think it was Einstein that said it's the 8th wonder of the world, and maybe it was quoted by Warren Buffett. Maybe I'm confusing my investors. No, it was Einstein that called it the 8th wonder of the world. This is the concept of earning interest on interest. And when you earn interest on interest, my goal of financial freedom in building and protecting your wealth in the age of Bitcoin is to end up with a stack of Bitcoin. And I don't mean 100% of your Bitcoin is earning interest, because that, again, is a strategy diversification and a strategy mix. You don't want to be in a position where one strategy blows up and you lose everything. But compounded interest is one of the most powerful forces in earning interest on interest. And then when you do it for an extended period of time, you eventually reach a position where the interest covers all your costs, as well as being able to continually invest. And therefore, you have met the definition of financial freedom by contributing and stacking these principles on top of each other. And that brings me to the final principle before we take your questions, which is principle 7, the concept of portfolio rebalancing. Portfolio rebalancing is, so let's say that you'd set your asset allocation, you'd set your diversification, you'd set your strategy mix, you know how much you're contributing, you're compounding your growth, you're compounding your interest, your dollar cost averaging. Then when do you sell? And why do you sell? Well, portfolio rebalancing is how the professional fund managers managing trillions in the world, they set their allocations. And when those allocations go whack, maybe once a year, they rebalance their portfolio so that they don't need to worry about when to sell, or when to buy. Combine all of these investing principles, and that's what we cover in the online wealth management program. And the tool that we have to implement it that I use is that portfolio builder retirement plan. So make sure you pre-register. There's a few actions you can take in order to start implementing this. The first step is making sure that you've got your account at BnkToTheFuture.com. And for compliance reasons, you need to verify yourself because we need to know who you are. And then you need to certify yourself so we know whether you qualify. Now, if you are not a high net worth investor yet, in the future, we already have 3 license applications in 3 jurisdictions in order to allow people. Get yourself ready, and then it will be an easy experience so that you don't miss any deals. In all the deals that we're doing right now, we're even trying to save an allocation just for those so that when we get our license in the future, we can have those on our secondary market and people can catch up on the deals that they might have missed as they complete the programs and to complete their education with us as well. So that's the first place to start. Do the free training as well and some of those resources. And now I think it's time for us to head over to the Slido board where we can go through some of your questions. So Azad, let's pull up the Slido board and let's take the first question. For those of you as well, if you're used to my videos on my personal YouTube channel, Simon Dixon, I tend to unconditionally give updates on exactly what's going on in the economy. I get a little bit more political. This Bank to the Future YouTube channel is for those that have really decided to be an investor and they really want to understand some of the different tools that we have in order to support people in building and protecting their wealth in the age of Bitcoin. So Azad, what's the first question?
Okay, yeah, before we move on to the question, there are a few people who have quite lengthy questions. So if you can keep the questions short, that would be great. Okay, the first question is from Jim. Hi, Simon. Are you and Bank to the Future still hoping to roll out the retirement plan B product to the masses? If so, what timescale are you looking at? Thanks for all your great work.
Yeah, absolutely. So pre-register on retirementplanb.com/portfolio. To be honest, we were hoping that one of our licenses, we've got an application. We went over to El Salvador to go meet the president and the government over there. And one of those applications would allow that possibility. There has been delays on that one. I covered that also on my personal YouTube channel video this morning, where I covered some of the FUD from the Bloomberg article. We've also got 2 reserve applications. Look, I've been involved in this game for over a decade now, and one thing you cannot do is second guess regulators. It always gets you in trouble. So as soon as those licenses comes through, I would be very, very disappointed if that didn't come through this year. Our team is working around the clock. And we are hedging our bets to ensure that we do everything we can do to bring more financial inclusion. For now, if you have a net worth of over $1 million, then you can join, you can make sure you got the account, and you can start consuming those services. We hate having to restrict it just as much as you hate missing out, but our job is to get those licenses. And regulators need to say yes, and I can't second guess the regulators to give you a time frame. Okay, next question.
Hi, Simon. It's a bit confusing about whether the regular folks can invest in El Zonte. Can you please clarify in detail what will be available and when, whether with Bank to the Future or with Max and Stacy?
Yeah, so El Zonte is so Max Kaiser and Stacy Herbert and the guys over at Swan Bitcoin. They launched a fund. I'm not involved in that in any way. We had a meeting with them. We'll see if we can make it available to Bank to the Future investors. But it's not something that I'm involved with. From my understanding, it is open to accredited investors, from what I know. And if you would like that investment opportunity, then let us know, let the support team know, and we'll see what we can do for you. Ours are open at the moment to high net worth investors only that have verified and certified their account. And when we apply for a license, we'll try and make sure that we got allocations. Just get your account ready on BnkToTheFuture.com so that we can let you know which area we can do that. So unfortunately, I can't answer that because I'm not involved.
Okay, could you explain the term qualified investor, EEA?
Yeah, the reason we use the term qualified investor, EEA is European Economic. I don't know what EEA is. But the qualified investor means that you will be residing or national somewhere. And we spent the last decade going through lots of different securities laws, lots of different cryptocurrency rules, lots of different virtual asset laws, and we build it all into our technology called Bank to the Future Identity. The technology will not allow you to invest unless you qualify, and then if you complete it, we'll let you know what is open to you. It depends on your jurisdiction. So we can't just say, here's one country. If you are national somewhere and you reside somewhere, it will have different rules. And we have to comply with all these global rules around the world that we spent the last decade building into our technology. So the definition of a qualifying investor depends upon your country. And our technology will allow you to onboard, define what type of investor you are, give you a tier, and then we will only display opportunities that are available to you and your tier. At the lowest level, you can buy virtual assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum and stable coins with your fiat money through our platform, or you can trade them between each other. If you invested in securities, if you've received some returns or some IPO shares that you sold, then you can convert them into crypto through the platform. But at the moment, the qualifying investor is our blanket term for that. If you want a rule of thumb, at the moment, it's $1 million of net worth. In the future, we'll expand that back to all the different definitions globally based upon the additional licenses we secure. It depends upon where you reside and where you are a national, and the regulators set the rule. We just have to comply with them.
When can we expect any returns with our FV Bank investment?
So great question. When you invest in private equity, it's normally a 5 to 7 to 10 year process. It normally involves diversification. When the original funding round was priced equity, the original funding round, this is public information on the Bank to the Future website. It was done at approximately a $40 million valuation. The next round is approximate 10x at a $400 million valuation if that goes through. And so we're working on that funding round right now. The longer you can hold it, the more returns are made. This really is a forced hodl. If you're familiar with the term hold on for your dear life, it's because the wealthiest in Bitcoin held on for their dear life. Private equity makes you do that. Now, if you need to get out earlier, as the company succeeds, then you may want to sell to another investor. And we're working through a project on BnkToTheFuture.com to make many of those deals available on the secondary market. We've had to rebuild a lot of our technology so that we can have, because what happens as a company progresses is they have multiple share classes, they raise funding in different ways, and we need to reclassify all of our share certificates and rebuild the platform. It's something we've been preparing for a long time. And once that secondary market is available, you could decide to get out a bit earlier. But the lessons that we've learned is those that were unable to sell, those that held on, those that compounded their growth were the people that became the wealthiest over time, and look back and say, it was because I wasn't able to sell that I was able to generate that. So the shorter time frame is normally because you haven't done the 7 investing principles that I shared in the first half of this in most cases.
Will non-high net worth individuals in tier 3 be allowed to invest in El Zonte or something similar? Will it be 1,000?
So we haven't signed an agreement to do the El Zonte deal. Our team has been working with them. We'll see what we can put together. But the non-high net worth is only available if we secure an additional license. And if we do things, we're trying to reserve some allocations for any licenses that we may get in the future. I think I've answered that one. Interesting to see how popular it is. It's great to get these questions and these interactions so that our client team can make sure that we're getting the deals. So always let us know. Tweet us at BnkToTheFuture. Let us know what types of deals you're looking for. And if you know people, we'll see if we've got a lot of pulling power. You know, we've got over 100 different companies in the industry. And we continually want to make sure that we're bringing the deals that you'd like to see. So this is great feedback for us.
Do you have an update on when the El Salvadorian securities law will take effect so we can invest?
Yeah, I did it this morning. So head over to watch the video that I created this morning if you want more details. But it was delayed. There are some big things going on at El Salvador. They are trying to work on crime reduction, and that caused a lot of delays. And so the government are preoccupied with that. As soon as they get over that hurdle, including getting rid of some of the more, the crime coming from the IMF, then we might get an update there. I covered it more on my personal YouTube channel in the update I gave this morning on FUD, freedom, and I can't remember the other thing. Geez, it's been a long day.
Can you elaborate a little bit more? What could happen with our investment shares in FB Bank? Is there a possibility we could sell a part of them if they make it to the stock market?
So the way the returns are made in private equity is that you are looking for them to exit in the future. And an exit can happen in a few ways. So for example, some of our investors, they invested into the early funding round in Bitstamp. Bitstamp became one of the largest crypto exchanges in Europe, and it was acquired by a public company in Korea. That means that we distributed those funds. Another one of our portfolio companies like Bitfinex, they were producing so much returns that they were just paying out, hundreds of millions in dividends to investors. That's not normal. That's not common. But that is an exception that happens. What most people are looking for is like some of our other portfolio companies like Coinbase. They went public on the stock market, and what happened is your private shares are converted to those public shares. when that happens, and then you can just put them in your brokerage account and sell them on the stock market as usual. If it gets into our secondary market, which is a new product that we're launching right now, then you can sell some of them on the secondary market, depending upon another investor that missed the deal wanting to buy those from you. So we have those secondary markets on Bank to the Future. And maybe you could just go to the BnkToTheFuture.com website. Yep. And if you go to our products, I think the first one is Start Investing, which is our primary markets. This is where we list all new deals. And then if you invested in FV Bank and it makes it to our secondary market in the future, if you go to our products, there was the original FV Bank deal. You can see previous deals that we've done. And if you go to, I think it's Start Trading, this is where we have our secondary market. Hit that green button and you can see the different markets that we have right now. We're not putting new ones live until we've completed our new technical build of the back end of the system. But you can see other companies, for example, Circle. That is the company that created USDC. And USDC is the second largest stablecoin. Bitfinex, the management team behind that, created the first largest stablecoin, Tether. Circle is due to do a SPAC and list onto the stock market in the coming months. Ripple Labs, they're looking to IPO. Kraken, they've already announced that they're going to be going public on the stock market as well. So you can see that more and more of our portfolio companies are starting to be able to do that. What we will do is you will receive the public shares in the future, and then you can go ahead and trade them. But here on our secondary market, once we completed the restructuring, if you missed any of these deals, you're a certified high net worth investor, then you can come along and you can buy them off another investor that may want to sell them early. That's how returns are made. But again, remember the 7 investing principles. Compounding growth is holding on to the winners and not combining your personal spending money with your investing money. Okay, let's take the next question. I think we started 5 minutes late, so we've got another 20 minutes to make it on the hour.
Hi, I live in the UK, have completed retirement plan B, and have a corporate account with Binance. However, recently got banned from Binance, and I don't know why they gave me 7 days to remove funds with no explanation. Maybe DeFi use?
Yes, unfortunately, I can't speak for Binance, but what I can tell you is that there is a regulatory crackdown. Binance does not want to be a nuisance to its customers, but as the industry is evolving, more and more regulations, as this industry's got bigger and bigger and bigger. Here's one thing I can promise to you: if you open an account with any of our portfolio companies, whether it be Celsius, whether it be or another company like Binance, whether it be Coinbase, the reason that they're restricting you from using their service is highly unlikely because they want to. They don't want to do that, just like we don't want to do that. But unfortunately, complying with regulations as a moving target ends up that you end up being restricted. So UK, for example, they just released their virtual asset regulations, which means that if you want to engage with any UK customers and you want to offer virtual asset services, then you would need to be registered with the UK regulator in order to offer that service. My guess is that they haven't completed that registration. Sorry if I'm speaking out of tone, and therefore they maybe temporarily needed to restrict that. Or maybe there was some kind of action that you took that connected to something, and they have to implement transaction monitoring and various other things that all regulated companies have to do. And therefore, unfortunately, these things happen, and it's just the nature of the financial system that the traditional financial system is creating, and why you want to diversify strategies. If you're from the UK and you completed the Retirement Plan B online wealth management program, then go back to those training modules on compounded interest or compounded growth. And we listed all of the different types of places where you can buy Bitcoin. You can buy Bitcoin on Bank to the Future as well. And you can just check back to those services where you can see all the different ways over the counter, the different types of exchanges. There is normally options for you depending on where you reside and your jurisdiction.
Okay, question from Miltos. Hi there, Simon. A question on Tier 4 verification. Locally, we have property deeds issued by the government that also state value in euros. Can I send these in to get a Tier 4 certification? I can also send a confirming valuation from an accredited valuator 2021 to further verify value and net worth. I think net worth. Kindly let me know if that can also work.
Yeah, so in verifying your net worth, you just need to demonstrate that you have over $1 million of assets. And some jurisdictions don't consider your residential property. Others, it's okay. Most of it, it's okay with us, but some jurisdictions don't. I know the US, I believe, don't quote me on this one. I have to speak to my compliance team. They don't allow you to include your primary residence, but if it's a secondary asset that you own, then it can be included in certifying your net worth. So when you do that, that sounds like a perfectly acceptable document. If it's got a third party, verification of the valuation, then great. Here's the important part. It's got to be your net worth. So if you head over to the blog on Bank to the Future, we've put some helpful blogs around there. And therefore, if you're, for example, have a $2 million property, but then you've got $1 million in a mortgage or debt, then it has to be your net worth. It has to be the equity that you have in there as well. In order to get the blogs, head over to the blog there and you'll see various guides here. I think we got some FAQs as well. I think we should, those are looking, you can get different guides there on how to certify yourself and all the different deals and BF lives and all sorts of stuff. There's a wealth of information there. Sounds like that's all right to me. I would have to leave that to our compliance team. We have to listen to the compliance team, but that sounds like a valid document. So please do put that in and then make sure you fill in the net worth form so we can assess your liabilities as well.
Okay, even though crypto is global, will we always be so heavily influenced by Wall Street?
This is an interesting question. Yes, so when you think about the market for money, the market for money is about different asset classes that fulfill different goals. At the moment, the market sees Bitcoin and crypto as somewhat of a speculative asset, and therefore it tends to be, at the moment, some kind of correlation short term to stock markets. Wall Street is the allocator of a lot of money in the world, and so therefore, where money gets allocated, short term will always drive markets. Now, what is it that really drives markets short term? Well, it's when you have expectations that are differentiated from what the market is saying. That's when markets really move. And then in the long term, I believe, if you look at any of my previous videos, that we are entering into a monetary renegotiation as a result of destroying fiat currencies at the end of a debt cycle, and many of those events. So that, I believe, will lead to a monetary renegotiation. I do think that Bitcoin, whether it's involved in that new negotiation or not, has a big role. So the market for money, if you think about it, is you can either put your money in stocks and bonds, or you can put your money in private equity, or you can put your money in Bitcoin and crypto, and different flows, different channels, different political events, different economic events dictate those flows. I'm in the midst of writing my new book that I think will be out this year, over a decade after writing the last one. And my goal is to try and help people understand many of these cycles, so that you can see these relationships from my experience as well. And that's actually a whole part of the book. The second part of the book is on many of these cycles. It's a great question. And when will it decouple? In the long term, it does decouple, because Bitcoin's value proposition is the demand for money you can own, money you can spend, and money that has a fixed supply. In the short term, it's just the demand for all the fiat thinkers deciding whether to put money into Bitcoin and traders. In the long term, it's the long-term demand that comes from individuals, that comes from companies, and it comes from countries. Is that our last question, Azad?
We've got 3 more.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I thought it was going to the last one on there.
Let's do that.
You're probably going to get your questions answered. So make sure you put those up there on that Slido board. And I'll carry on for a maximum of another 10 minutes. And if we run out of questions, we'll end early.
Okay, please delete if not wanted to address it. It's okay, but I replied 2 times this year as I'd love to work for Bank to the Future. But till now, never got a rejection or feedback mail. Currently working as captain at Lufthansa.
We are currently hiring at the moment. We are restricted in terms of which jurisdictions we can hire in for various reasons. So different departments mainly focus on different jurisdictions. We unfortunately, we would love to give feedback to everyone that applies, but we get so many applications relative to the number of positions. We have been doubling our team, but it may be nothing to do with you. It may be, the jurisdiction in which that department is hiring in. We are a global company, but at the moment we have to focus in different areas as well. So really do apologize if you don't get her back. But for those of you that are interested in working at Bank to the Future, on the website, there's a careers section. We are regularly, we've been expanding the team pretty aggressively at the moment, but unfortunately, if you apply and we're not able to get back to you, it's just simply because we don't have the resources to be able to get back to everyone and give feedback on that. But over there's the careers under About Us. Over to the careers. Here's some of the roles that we're hiring for. If you, we do appreciate your applications, but we do get a lot of them and we just don't have the resources to give feedback on that, on all of them.
Question from Moera. With current Bitcoin prices, I'm like just above and other day just below $1 million. To prove it, I would need to use my cold storage and wallet address to you. Do you see any risks, and what does Bank to the Future do when Bitcoin crashes too much with my tier 4 per year?
So if you have crypto assets and the majority of your net worth is in Bitcoin, to prove that you own that wallet address, and then you sign a declaration form that those are your assets. Our team at the support would be delighted to help you. When you certify it, if you click that you're going to be doing it with Bitcoin, then it gives you a nice guide there on the blog as well. There's a guide on how to do that, and do reach out to our support team. They are there to help you and help you get through that. Now, in terms of volatility, it's an interesting question. There would be periodic reassessments, just because of the short-term volatility, it's that the time that you certify that we consider your net worth at that point. If you need to add some additional wallets to verify additional net worth, then we can walk you through that process. It's a nuisance. It's a pain, we know. I hate doing it just as much as you hate doing it, but it's the way the world is going, and it's what we have to do in order to offer this service and continue to help people and support people in building and protecting their wealth. So it's the net worth at the point of doing that, and then you prove that, and then there could be some periodic checks along the way.
I think it's just me, but if not, your screen has frozen.
All right, okay. Let me unshare and share my camera. How's that?
Much better, thank you. Okay, 3 more questions, I think, and that should be it. How many high net worth investors are registered at Bank to the Future or with Bank to the Future?
I don't have the latest stats, but everybody that is registered has given their net worth. We got a lot of investors. I know that we got 150,000 on there, and how many of those have certified as high net worth? A good question. I'd need to need to get some more details from my compliance team. We're onboarding a lot every single day. And also next week, the Celsius round goes through. So please try and get that done in advance. Don't wait for the last minute. We don't want, our support team are there to help you, but there's a lot of work on our side that we need to do to get you through that process. And then once it's done, it's done. So try and get that early so that we can make sure your account is all set up. A stat I do know that we have is we've had over $1 billion invested in funding rounds listed on our platform from those 150,000 investors. And many of them, are high net worth just from the assets that they hold on Bank to the Future. And remember, we can include the value of your assets at Bank to the Future. So reach out to the support team if that needs to be included as well. We've been doing some models to proxy the value for the new portfolio section that we're designing when we do the restructuring later this year. So do reach out to the support team if you need on that as well, so we can help you there.
Okay, next question is from Simon Nakamoto. Hey, Simon, thanks for the AMA. What happens to all the mortgages if the government lets a bank go bust? As you said, the savings could be transferred to a central bank digital currency account, but what happens to the debt that people owe to the bankrupt bank?
Okay, I'll take that question. It's more political, less related to investing. But what would most likely do is they have these products called mortgage-backed securities. And what mortgage-backed securities are is where they pull together all of the retail bank loans. You may remember that term from the 2008 financial crisis, where the retail bank passes on the risk and they package them up to the investment bank and sell them to your pension. I think they would auction off all of the debt. They've done this through a debt restructuring in the past when banks go bust. I don't think it's going to be a debt jubilee if that's what some of you are hoping for. I think it's going to be auctioning off the assets. It's a bit like what banks do right now when you default on your loan and then they're chasing you, they sell it off to a debt factorer who buys it at a discount and then chases you down in order to try and get repayment. So I imagine some kind of debt restructuring. The products have been built, the industry is very well known, and that's the type of thing I imagine if a bank goes bust when a central bank digital currency is issued in order to replace deposits and get you to opt in. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you might want to follow my content on the Simon Dixon YouTube channel.
Okay, and the final question from Adam. Hi, Simon. I registered for high net worth BnkToTheFuture.com account for company and personal a while back, but application failed. How fast can I solve this, as I'd like to buy into Celsius?
Individual accounts are a lot faster than corporate accounts. It's a nuisance for the corporate accounts, but we do have our team out there looking to do that. If you are looking to fast track something because you're trying to make an investment, please reach out to our support team. And put in the subject line, trying to invest in Celsius or whatever it may be, so that we can try and make sure that we don't miss any deals there. Individual accounts are a lot faster. And if there is ever a reason why the deal doesn't go through, the reason for rejection should be sent by email so that you can correct that. And it's also when you log in, it shows you what that reason may be as well, so that you can correct it. Normally with corporate companies, we do it all the time. It takes a few iterations to get through that because organizations and companies are a lot harder to get through a process because they're so much more complex. Okay, is that all of our questions?
That is.
Awesome. Okay, so sorry we were 5 minutes late. I hope you enjoyed that. So if you want to get more resources, get up to scratch on this, head over to retirementplanb.com/book if you want. Pre-register on the portfolio and the different links. We'll try and make sure that those are all in the description on the YouTube channel. And always remember, you are alive at one of the most interesting and exciting times in financial history. Some are going to get hurt. Others are going to do really well. And at Bank to the Future, we want to make sure that you have all the tools to be on the right side of financial change, just like many of our investors have been over the last decade as the longest standing company in Bitcoin and the world's first crypto securities business. So I'll be back, I think this time next week. I'm doing a bit of traveling, so I may not be, in fact, for the next few weeks, I won't be at the nice location at home. I'll try and find some different locations, and hopefully we will be live with our next deal. So get your account verified and certified. Sorry for the pain, but we've got a team ready to go through those accounts for you so that you don't have to miss a deal. That's going to do it for episode 98 of Bank to the Future Live. We'll see you this time next week for Bank to the Future Live, episode 99. And do send us on Twitter in the comments section below this. Like it, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell symbol, hit all, and let us know in the comments what you would like to be covered in future videos so that we can check that out. And we'll see you this time next week. Peace.